So 13 years ago, I was really excited for Star Citizen. At the time, I was an EVE Online player. My friends in EVE were telling me about this game that had just gone into Kickstarter. They were promising it was going to be the next EVE Online. So I remember checking out their Kickstarter, and I said, oh, they only need $500,000 to reach their goal. If you remember, Kickstarter terms of service say whatever you set your goal as is the amount of money you need to bring the project to completion. And we know that Caspian at Soulbound Studios, Chronicles of Valyria, he failed with this as well. I thought when I was looking at their Kickstarter, estimated delivery, 2014. I thought, awesome. It's going to be a game. I'm going to be able to get my life in order, start in my career. I'll get my feet underneath me. Then I'll be able to play the next EVE Online. Well, 13 years later, and the only thing that RSI has been able to do is continue a crowdfunding campaign that has since raised them $671 million. So far, 5.1 million people have signed up to play Star Citizen whenever it does manage to come out. Now, I know right now I've probably offended some Star Citizen fans, and all I'm going to say is wait till the end of the video, hold fire, listen to my concerns, and then try to convince a guy who was once really excited about the game about why I should give it another chance. And I'm doing this video today because in the headlines for MMORPG news, Star Citizen to focus up for commercial 1.0 release after company reorganization. They believe, do you? And as you can tell by my tone right now, no, I do not believe. And here's a little bit more why. Last October, when this news came out, I wasn't making video game content. I wasn't making YouTube videos. Star Citizen Squadron 42 campaign is feature complete after 11 years. Okay, 11 years, a little bit outside of the long end for how long video games normally take, but that's okay. But what gave me concern is how it came to be that late. A production schedule was made public in late 2016, a year after Squadron 42 was originally slated to launch. At that time, Star Citizen was slated for August of 2016. The date slipped by because of the lawsuit. Now, if you're not aware, Star Citizen was sued by Crytek, the makers of CryEngine, because they were switching engines, and that's always going to slow down development. Lawsuits are terrible. Another roadmap was issued in mid-2020, a roadmap to the new roadmap. By early 2022, the developers had said they would no longer issue target dates for any new features that were more than 1 quarter away to avoid distraction and continued noise every time we shift deliverables from a very loud contingent of roadmap watchers. So basically, we're going to give you a chart and we're going to show you our project management tools. But when we don't meet those, we don't want you to be upset. We just want you to realize that we're no longer going to really tell you what's in development. Now, I think it's a bold move putting out your entire roadmap like this with progress trackers, release dates. You can drill down into the deliverable view. This is really a project manager's tool. But the problem is people who are project managers are going to look at this and they're going to say, wait a minute, you have a 146-week duration item on your roadmap that the last time it was updated was December 18th, 2020. And if you notice, there's no deliverables in Q1 of 2024, right? There's no deliverables at all. And so as we scroll down, there's no deliverables. So I think it's a really great thing to say, oh, well, we're going to show you the progress as we make the progress. But we're no longer going to update it because people who have been waiting for 13 years for the game, 11 years past delivery, they're upset. Well, imagine that. Imagine the audacity of a gamer to be upset that you're 10 or 11 years past the release date. But we got to focus on the positives, right? Squadron 42 is ready to go. It's in its polish phase. So Squadron 42, start the adventure. Answer the call and enlist today. Enlist today. Answer this question and join recruits and receiving the Squadron 42 monthly newsletter. I have to answer a question before I can get your newsletter. That seems a little odd, but okay, maybe I'll do that later. Sign up. Oh, I got to answer the question. I got it. Okay. But I can go to the pledge store without answering a question, right? Oh, I can come in here. I didn't have to answer a question to come in here, but I had to answer a question to get on the mailing list. Oh, here's more stuff for sale, right? Here's more stuff. More stuff. And the big thing here is I'm not trying to be cynical, but I'm going to put a link to this blog because I didn't write this blog. It's a really good blog, but I want to just focus here. Shipping something is better than shipping nothing. Maybe. That is a hard one because there are titles that should clearly have never been shipped or should have delayed shipping. But in the case of Star Citizen, despite the constant stream of missed dates and broken features, it has shipped enough to keep its core audience engaged. Good for them. I compare this to Camelot Unchained, which publishes a regular newsletter, which hopefully you don't have to answer any questions to get, and feature and updates in a tone that sounds like they have shipped something, when in fact nobody can play Camelot Unchained. It is still locked up in servers in Virginia, while whatever audience the game had a decade back has mostly melted away. Only one of those scenarios has had a 600 million revenue stream over the last 10 years. And then interestingly enough, if you go back into that pledge store, what you're going to see is this community subscriber. $10. Support the community and get rewards. Your membership will allow us to produce all the Star Citizen shows you love and give you access to subscriber exclusive perks and discounts on the Star Citizen merchandise. All right. So you want us to buy a membership. You want us to be a community subscriber to help you pay for the shows that are your marketing and advertising tools, which are going to help you make more money. Can the Star Citizen fans start to see where, as an outsider, I'm not trying to rob you, I'm trying to help you, says Gandalf. Now, today's article was Star Citizen to focus up for commercial 1.0 release after company reorganization. Robert Space Industries believes it's closer than ever to its 1.0 commercial release, but not without some major internal movement. A letter from the chairman, written by Chris Roberts, outlines some of the successes of Robert Space Industries. Last October, they announced its single-player spin-off Squadron 42 was almost entirely ready for its release product-wise, minus the polishing phase, and we have no release date for that, and the roadmap doesn't have anything on it. One of the biggest discussions this time was something onlookers have been doubting for years, a tight path to a 1.0 release. A 1.0 release. Roberts said they're focusing up to the final, get the team and its players out of the alpha cycle and more into a commercial release. A new senior game director, Rich Tyre, formerly the director on Squadron 42, has been brought on board to focus towards that 1.0 release. He assures that they're probably tightening up the sprawl, the scope creep. This begins with identifying what features and content are required to create a full realized space MMO while laying the foundations for future updates. To be 100% clear, though, this doesn't mean going back to the drawing board or totally changing the vision. With that aim, Chris and I have overseen the creation of a roadmap that takes us all the way up to 1.0 and outlines all the features and content we need, and just as crucially, the ones that will come post-full release. Post-full release. So all these years of scope creep, all these years of taking a universe and taking a single persistent universe and turning it into multiple star systems, each with their own planets, moons, stations, points of interest, increasing the scale of the core viable product, and then adding in new features like exploration, mining, trading, salvaging, bounty hunting, crafting, farming, deciding you needed better graphic fidelity and doing an engine change, continuing to divert resources to Squadron 42, including stretch goals, and having technology issues are now dictating that not everything is going to be in the 1.0 product. And why? Because if they stuck to their original roadmap and tried to put all of those things in the 1.0 product, this game would never come out. In the meantime, the key end of Squadron 42 development and the return to office movement seem to focus on major restructuring, layoffs. We don't know the exact number, but we do know major figures were laid off. And one outlet even reports a former staffer hinting at a toxic environment. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want to get into the mud, the muck, we'll leave it at that. I do know that RSI years ago was accused of nepotism. A lot of key people at RSI were relatives of Chris. You can dig into that on your own. All I have to say is that nepotism isn't always bad, but if a lot of your family members are getting six-figure salaries, that probably is bad. Part of the reorganization also included asking core development teams in Los Angeles to move to Texas or England, right? Roberts chalks it up to being closer in time zone to our main development operations in Manchester, Frankfurt, and Montreal. Well, you want people to leave California to be closer in time zones to Manchester and Frankfurt, I can totally get down with. But California and Montreal aren't that far in time zones. Remote doesn't seem to be an option. Todd Pappy, an upper-level staff member of 9 years, opted out of the move and left the company altogether. I think saying a upper-level staff member is sort of downplaying it, because it wasn't an upper-level staff member. It was Star Citizen's live game director vacates position after 9 years. 9 years. The live game director said, I'm not moving, and I guess I'll just be done. And in the 11 years since its successful Kickstarter, Star Citizen has come under a lot of scrutiny for its slow progress and pledge program. A system implemented early in live development allows players to buy their way in with different tiers of spaceships, along with access to the game's alpha. Okay. Can you maybe understand why people might be upset? Again, another article, I'll include this in the bottom. Roberts does point out there are still milestones to meet before the push to 1.0. He references moving Alpha 4.0 and releasing Pyro, but he also talked about a weekend test of the server meshing and replication layer technology that saw the first jump gate from Stanton to Pyro working and brought 350 players into one shard. To that point, Chief Technology Officer Benoit, French name, writes in the address that the replication layer will arrive in 3.23, while multi-server meshing is scheduled to come with Alpha 4.0. Now, I'm not trying to be insulting to RSI. I know the people there are working really hard, but the problem here is you're trying to replicate technology that CCP, the developers of EVE Online, have had for 22 years. If you know anything about EVE Online, other than the Chinese server and the test server, every player in the world plays EVE Online on a single server, on a single cluster. Now, over the years, EVE Online has been able to improve their technology, so when you jump from system to system, it doesn't feel like a loading screen. It feels seamless. But when you talk about developing a game of Star Citizen's scale, it involves tackling numerous technological challenges, including seamless transition between space and planetary surfaces, and networking issues for supporting a large number of players in a shared universe. If you're trying to replicate what CCP has had for 22 years, you're not on the bleeding edge of technology. You're still playing catch-up. And you're playing catch-up with $671 million. Now, I'm not trying to be negative, but what I am saying is we do have a problem with optics and MMORPGs in development. We have massive amounts of scope creep, and it's us. It's the players. We're to blame for this. We want a game to come out and be absolutely perfect on day one. We expect it to be free or cheap. We don't want subscriptions. We don't want cash ups. And I don't blame RSI for continuing to milk the cash cow. You've basically created a scenario where you're making $50+ million a year for selling champagne dreams and caviar vacations. You're promising people that when and if the game comes out, you're going to have all this cool stuff to do. But the truth is, MMORPG captured the question simply. They believe, do you still believe Star Citizen can come out in the next 5 years? Do you believe that the new team with the new roadmap can bring us to 1.0 within 2 years? Do you believe Squadron 42 is going to release anytime soon because it's only in its polish phase? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.